Well, here's another result of one of my amp safaris. You know, sometimes you shoot the bear, sometimes you shoot the goat. I think this is the goat. It has a EF40 pentode, very unusual tube in the preamp section. Then it has a ECC40, which is at least simply a double triode, well, something we're used to seeing in amps, but this amp is clearly from early 50s. Two EL84s, and then there's an extra socket where there used to be some kind of rectifier tube. The power transformer can be selected on base of voltage. There are some capacitors here, bulky and big, and what is supposed to be the output transformer. The cans are 50 plus 50 microfarads, both of them. The other ones don't have any indication on them. And it says MBLE. And it says the tubes are all ADSAM. I think it's safe to conclude that this is an MBLE. Amp, Manufacture Belge de Lampe Électrique. They used to be in Anderlecht in this street, le Rue des Deux Gares, Twee Stationsstraat. And they used to be quite big. They merged with Philips, started making tubes in the 30s, I think, and this is how the site looks today. You can see that they had a deal with Philips, and they got together with Philips, and then later Philips took over. But in the 60s, MBLE was quite big. Here is some footage from the World Fair in 1958. Where MBLE had this like tube-shaped pavilion in the middle of the park, and it's something which is even more impressive than the pavilion that was used by IBM. Here are some pictures from the factory itself. Nice ladies working on tubes, carefully constructing them with a lot of eye for detail. So here's some more markings on the capacitors, which were probably made in-house by MBLE. They started making their own components, not only tubes, in the late 40s. Inside the amp there's another tube, probably a preamp stage as well, EC90, also ADSAM. Can be used as an end tube, and as you can see it's really point-to-point wiring all the way through, which makes really restoring this amp somewhat of an adventure, I think. This side is probably where the input's at, but there's no real input jack, or here is what we thought to be the rectifier tube socket, which is wired with diodes now. And if we look at the power transformer, it had, or it still has, a 5-volt winding, so it probably had a rectifier tube originally. Two 6-volt taps, also a 4-volt tap. And a lot of these variable resistors, slider resistors. There we have what's supposed to be the power cord. More of these old crusty resistors. Actually, the wiring is done very professionally, but there's been some work done to this amp and things have been changed. Yes, here I discovered that this is just the pilot light. There's this strange kind of click and switch next to what's supposed to be the input, next to what is probably the first tube, and this big fat black wire is going through the chassis and was probably the input. There's another switch which I think used to be used to select the output transformer impedance. A lot of these fat, waxy black capacitors, which will have to be replaced, are probably coupling caps. But some neat and nice wiring throughout. Here's this hole in the side where this, what's supposed originally, I think, was a power cord, but it's used as an input cord here, as insulated wire. And this is probably the first tube, and we could trace it from that input lead all the way to the grid of the first tube, using the tube charts to find which pin is the grid. But I didn't find any schematic. I must say that at first I was a little bit baffled by this amp, but I'm beginning to see the light. So I haven't really shown the front panel, which has a marche, arrêt, work, stop, on off button. This is of course the pilot light. This is really nothing. There's no connection here. You can put a screwdriver in here and turn the pot. Here's this strange click-in switch, and this tab here at the back is, of course, it says HP haut-parleur. It's for the speakers. So since we discovered what the input is, where the speakers go, we may as well try to fire this beast up one time, but we need some new power cord on it first. Again, I think this is where the amp gives away its identity. MBLE, 14th week of 1953. I think this is the way to date this amp, and considering the fact that all the tubes are Adzam and Philips, it kind of makes sense. One thing I'm wondering, I'm really wondering what type of rectifier tube used to be in here. I've never seen this type of tube socket before, and it might be some indication to the type of tube that went in there. But suggestions, of course, welcome in the comments.